first question is, tell me about the current tour. Are you playing any deep album cuts in the show?
Of the acoustic record you're talking about?
Yeah.
It depends. If we're doing, I'm not quite sure how long the show is going to be at the Fort Wayne, Indiana show. Do you know if there's anybody else on with us?
I don't think so. I think it's just you.
Okay. Well, in that case, yes, we will. And probably be doing a couple of the ones from the CD from Acoustic Classics.
Now, do you have a pretty much static set list, or do you add and subtract all the time?
Add and subtract all the time, but it depends again on whether we're co-headlining and it's a hour and a half, say 90-minute spot, or whether it's a two-hour situation, or sometimes we do, as we will probably do in Fort Wayne, it'll be about 2.5 hours.
Now, speaking of the acoustic classics, what prompted you to re-record some of your most well-known songs in acoustic form?
That basically, I never really thought I would do that, but I noticed that a lot of artists were redoing their material, bands and such, but just redoing it as per the record, so they would own the master, if you know what I mean. So the record company would be a new master.
Yeah.
And I've never been one for repeating myself, so as far as doing that kind of thing. So I did notice that a couple of people had done them acoustically, and that appealed to me much more. So I decided, it actually came at the same time as the suggestion of an acoustic tour as well, which is something I'll be doing again. I've already done 2 of them, but the raw acoustic tour only, which will be in October as well. So yeah, last October we went out on the tour, and that was halfway through recording Acoustic Classics, and Gordon Kennedy and I, just the 2 of us, went out and did the acoustic tour, which was a really big success. I never thought I would do a complete set of acoustic, and I never thought I'd do a complete CD of acoustic. So, but the end result was that I really enjoyed it, and it's 180 degrees different from playing with the band, which I love. But I also found that this is another avenue that I really enjoy too. So it's the best of both worlds. The summer is the band tour, and then spring and fall I go out for a dozen shows each time, and do the acoustic thing, which is I don't know, it's so different. I love it. It's great.
Now, I see there's a vinyl edition of Acoustic Classics coming out soon. Are you a fan of vinyl, or do you prefer listening to music digitally?
Oh, no, I'm an analog guy. I grew up with bits of tape around my neck when I was editing.
Oh, good. Yeah, so am I. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been engineering in tape for many years, but I was one of the last holdouts, obviously. But now I utilize. I still use tape I have a 24-track machine, studio machine, that I'm able to, through the wonders of digital technology, record on the analog, and it goes straight into my Pro Tools system or my Nuendo system, and on my computer. So I still get the benefit of tape. So obviously, when it was, as it seems, vinyl has come back, at least for quite a large, percentage of, I think, the newer listeners as well as older listeners, Yeah. So the opportunity to put out the last few records, few CDs on record has been great, and people love it. So there's something about vinyl that's so ineffective. I mean, not ineffective. It's so what's shouldn't sound that good, but it does.
Yeah. Now, piggyback on that, are you a fan of the streaming? I know streaming seems to be taking over everything, and I'm still a physical CD or vinyl person. What's your take on the current state of the industry with it turning towards streaming?
Well, we have to sort out how to get the artist paid and the songwriter paid. That's a little bit more than streaming enables. I mean, I'm sure you've heard horror stories of people that have had like a #1 hit, and they look and they get their check and it's $31.50.
Yeah.
And I mean, the figures are. I mean, approximately. At least when iTunes came along after Napster, which meant that no one was buying music at all for a while there, and then iTunes came along and kind of saved the day, but turned it from an album market to back into a singles market again, because you could pick what track you bought. But that one track was 99 cents, and the artist would it's now 129, I think, for better quality or whatever. And so I don't know the exact amount the artist would end up with from either of those. Probably in the, I don't know, a quarter, maybe less. But in order for the artist to earn that amount from one download on iTunes, you have to stream that same song about over 100,000 times.
Wow.
So that gives you the inequality there of what's going on. So I'm not a big fan of streaming, and yet, I have streaming things, and I find it obviously great to be able to find whatever I want, but I pay for my streaming like you have to, whether it's Apple Music or whatever one that you have, Amazon but I think that what's happened here is that the artist has been yet again downgraded in the amount of money that they get as an end result.
Now, of all your past work, including The Herd, Humble Pie, and Solo, was there a particular album that was the most fun for you to record?
I would have to say my first solo record was probably Wind of Change, was because there was no expectation of anything, and there was no game plan. It was just what happened, what I wrote at the time, and I think that was like, going where no guitar player's gone before. For me, anyway, speaking personally,
Yeah.
I had not been where I was going, and I didn't know where I was going, and I think that's a great, which is all about music. When you play music, you shouldn't think about it. It should just happen, and I think when you start thinking about it, it goes wrong. So I think that obviously you've got to think when you're writing the material, but actually playing it and recording it is when you disappear into the music and it plays itself.
What do you consider yourself first, a guitarist, a performer, or a songwriter?
Guitarist first, and then I don't know, all the others sort of come at the same, really. But guitar playing is my passion. Performing is close behind that, as well as everything else, songwriting.
The other thing I was going to ask you, All Things Must Pass is one of my all-time favorites, and I know you were at those sessions. What was it like working with George, and what was it also like working with the late George Martin? I know you worked with him on the Sgt. Pepper film.
Yeah, well, obviously working with George Harrison was phenomenal, because, it was just that being invited into that very close group of English London musicians that were on that record, as well as Americans, obviously. Jim Gordon was playing drums on that, as well as Ringo, and Billy Preston. So it was just an amazing experience to be sitting next to George and playing on all those tracks. And then I did do some overdubbing with him as well. So we were really good friends by that time, and I would get to hang out down at Fire Park. And so it was a very exciting period. The only exciting thing about Sgt. Pepper, the movie, was working with George Martin and Jeff Emerick, the Beatles engineer. So I had the dynamic duo there. And I played a lot on the album tracks that I wasn't singing on. I became the session guy on that album. So I really did enjoy working with George Martin on that, and he was we hung out. He came round for dinner, and it was till he left us. He was a dear friend, and as everyone says, a true gentleman. He was a wonderful. Reminded me of my dad a lot.
Oh, now, do you have any plans after this tour to make a new album, or do albums mean as much to you as they did in the 70s when album was the thing to do?
Well, I think, I heard what Roger Daltrey said the other day, what's the point,
Yeah.
of making another record, and I agree with him. There isn't any point really financially, but artistically there's all the reason in the world to put out new material, because I can't, just because someone's not going to pay for necessarily pay for my music, whether they do or not,
Right.
I can't get up tomorrow and sit down at the guitar and say, wait a second, I mustn't write a song.
Yeah.
It's something that happens. It's like, an artist sits down at his canvas and paints. It was sort of in the reverse in the old days, when the artists would die before their works became worth any money. So they had no monetary reason to create at all, and I don't need I've never needed a monetary reason to create. I go out and I play live, and because I don't, records don't sell anywhere near like they did before, CDs, whatever you want to call them, music. I do go out and I tour more than but I love touring, so it doesn't bother me, and I'm one of the lucky people that really enjoys it, and also I'm known for my live shows, so it's a wonderful position, and I'm very grateful to be in that position that people seem to always want to come and see me. So, and they know they're going to get old stuff and new stuff, so I don't sit back on my laurels and just say, okay, I've written everything I'm going to write, and that's it. I can't be like that. It's like turning the faucet off. I can't do that.
And then my final question is, what's been the most satisfying part of your career so far?
Oh gosh, that's a really easy question. And for me, I think when I went back with A&M Records, 2005, and they asked me, what would you like to do for your first album back with us? I said, well, you might not want to re-sign me now, but I said, I'm going to do an instrumental record. And there was sort of like silence. And then they said, all right, yeah, guitar, I got it. So, and I got a Grammy for it. So I think that's the most gratifying period for me. I went, and it took me maybe a little bit over a year to record it. I went all around the world playing with my friends that joined me on Fingerprints, and I was going to do it no matter what. It was just a labor of love, and I had no expectations for it whatsoever. As far as critics critics or the public. I had no idea because I didn't really care. I was going to do it. And lo and behold, I get a Grammy. So it was for the whole album, which was so unexpected. I can't tell you. That's why I think I'm so grateful that did happen. And it kind of was a I don't know, justification of everything I'd been through, of being the guitar player, being known as the session musician in England, and for years I play on loads of people's records, and then turning into the teeny bopper star, you know, because of the front covers and the enormous success of Comes Alive. Which sort of misled a lot of people, I think. And so, apart from Bowie David taking me around the world as his guitar player and reintroducing me as the guitar player, as the musician, which was wonderful, a wonderful gift he gave me. Then this was less than 10 years later, I get a Grammy. So it was a very gratifying period.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I look forward to seeing the show.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.